Hello, Steve White, Trekboy89 for Steve Hats 89. Well, we're up to episode 9 of Lower Decks, Crisis Point. Now let's just start with the unforgivable. Now this episode features prominently features a holodeck simulation of Mariner's idea of a Star Trek movie, which parodies some of the Star Trek films. And it has a sequence where the crew are in a shuttle going towards the Cerritos, and they go around and around in circles with big dramatic music. It's taking the piss out of Star Trek the Motion Picture, and to a lesser extent Voyager, and any scene where we see the crew approaching and appreciating a ship. And it's just offensive. It just really insults. And the worst part about this show is these people do know Star Trek, so they know where to get us. They know where to insult us. They know how to troll Star Trek fans. So, let the trolling, I was going to say begin, but I mean, it's been going the whole time. So let the trolling continue. Okay, so this episode starts off with, Mariner on a planet, basically freeing a bunch of lizard men from evil rat oppression. They're toppling statues and just breaking the Prime Directive in all lots of sort of kind of ways all over the place. And of course, she deludedly expects the captain's support. She beams down and basically says, sorry to the aliens. This person basically has just done everything they shouldn't do and, cancelled all their plans. So they basically send her back to the ship. She has a tantrum. And she basically apologises to the dictators or whatever they are on the planet, and says, look, will you stop eating these people if we give you replicators? And he's like, can it basically make our favourite food? And she's like, yes. Boom, the end. Not really funny, but it does speak to Mariner's mental issues, because she does seem legit crazy. And I think a lot of people criticising the show have just seen that as bad writing, but it actually could be part of the character, because unless they're just trying to justify the character after the fact, that she has been batshit crazy the whole time. Now, basically, instead of sending her to the brig where she wants to go, the captain sends her to therapy. Oh, and here's the big surprise at the end of the episode, which I'm like, is this supposed to be a surprise? No one knows this? How could no one know this? Supposedly no one knows that Mariner is the captain's daughter. And Boilerman discovers this during the episode, and it's like, oh my god. And I'm like, everyone knows this. How could people not know that's her daughter? There's no way she could go all the way through Starfleet with no one knowing that that's her mother. There's no way. It's ridiculous. It's not feasible, plausible, possible. It's just ridiculous. So she sends her to therapy, and she basically ends up, the therapist is a bird man, because they don't seem to be able to create any actual aliens. They just stick animal heads on people, and that's making fun of Star Trek as well, basically saying that Star Trek and aliens are stupid. Oh look, we've got a Catwoman, we've got a bird man. Oh, aren't we stupid? This is making fun of Star Trek. They end up going to the holodeck, and she makes up this whole, well, of course, Boilerman starts off with a realistic recreation of the crew, because he's trying to work out how to suck up to them, because of course he wants to get ahead. He wants to be a real crew member, not just an ensign on the lower decks, because they treat them like, a lesser form of life in this dimension, this universe of Star Trek, where it's just a parody of everything and not an actual canon continuation, although it does claim to be a canon continuation of the show. That's supposed to be a comedy, but it's really a parody, and then they sometimes acknowledge it's a parody, and other times they don't. So it just really depends on what day of the week it is, what this show is supposed to be. It depends on if it's successful, it's that. If it's failing, it's something else. So, and this is where the horror begins. Mariner, of course, says, oh, your program's stupid, let me make it into something better. So she turns it into a really cliched Star Trek movie. They rip off the Wrath of Khan credits. They rip off the Star Trek the Motion Picture Enterprise scene. The only good two things they do rip off, though, because they're negative things, is she creates this character, Vendetta or something. Vendetta? Oh my god, I've forgotten the name. She's basically vengeance personified, which is all the Star Trek films are, other than Star Trek 1 and 4. It's just some villain needing vengeance, which is what happened after Wrath of Khan. Wrath of Khan happened, normies said, oh, that's what Star Trek is, the Enterprise crew fighting baddies who want vengeance. So every freaking Star Trek film is some wronged alien wanting revenge and the crew having to save the Earth from them, or maybe just even just save the ship or each other from them. So at least they're making fun of that. And the other thing that is good, they constantly have lens flares and that in the shots, which is making fun of JJ, and that the universe, like the actual universe, which Star Trek universe, which is practical and has practical lighting and things that are like ergonomically correct for like offices and office space and workspaces. And then we have the movie universe where it's all like lighting in your face and lens flares. So that at least was good. They made fun of some JJ Trek, not just original Trek. They're making fun of both universes. So we go through this whole thing, and she's of course marginalised. Tendi is like the what are they called again? The Orion pirate and blah blah. And of course she's offended by that the whole time. They have fun with Rutherford, because I love Rutherford. He's the only good character in the show. And you'll notice he's brown, so you can't say I'm racist. I don't like Discoveryverse and Discoverse and Lower Decks, blah blah. And the actor, of course, is not white either. So, I'm double not racist. I like a character who's brown and played by an actor who's brown. So yay! What points for me? He, of course, ends up, despite trying to be a badass, ends up in the engineering deck, loving on the main engineer guy. I think his name is Phillips. And they basically have this engineer-based bromance, and it's just so funny. And the saddest part of the episode is later when they're out of all this. The engineer is sitting in 10 forward by himself, lonely, drinking soup very slowly. And Rutherford is like, I wish I could tell him what I really think, just like I did on the holodeck, And Mariner's like, well, why don't you go do it? It's like, oh, no, I don't want to bother him. And he's just sitting there all alone. And like, he'd love to have someone who loves engineering as much as him just talking. It's sad. And it's a sad comment on men, current day men. I think in the future, Star Trek men would actually just talk to each other about stuff they love and not be afraid of looking gay. Because they're totally gay in the episode, but they're not, but they're totally gay, so we get through all that. Well, that's his story, and that sort of ended. That's the end of the episode, but I just wanted to jump to that because it was just a good point. I just wanted to revel in the one good character, one good moment of this show. I do love Rutherford. And we have, of course, Mariner ends up fighting herself because at some point Boimler put in a version of her because at one point Boimler is on the Cerritos, and he's basically by the book and being himself, and he's fighting Mariner and her pirate crew, and they end up trashing the ship. They invade the ship. They trash it. She just wants to kill her mother, and it's basically matricide. It's just she just really just wants to kill her mother, and it's really quite sick, and you feel that. And then Tendi actually says, this is messed up, I'm leaving, I'm not participating in this is messed up, you've got issues. She leaves, and Mariner ends up fighting herself. And it's kind of bizarre because I'm like, who is talking now? It's like they forgot which character was which. And at some point she works out that she does like being on the ship, she does like being a part of the crew, and that she needs to stop hating it, which would be good. And then at the end of the episode, you actually see that she does do this, because after we have this very bizarre scene where they blow up the ship, like literally one of them, the good Mariner, has it on self-destruct. They blow up, they crash into the atmosphere like Star Trek 3, and then they crash through the ice like Timeless, and then they spin around, and the saucer section basically rolls until it stops, kind of like the Enterprise in Beyond. It eventually ends up like that. And it almost would have been a good sequence if it wasn't taking the piss out of every crash sequence in the Star Trek history and just the nature of the episode. The actual design kind of looked cool, and that's part of the sadness of this show, is that it could have been a good Star Trek show. Like, they've got the looks down, they've got the visuals right, they just don't have the spirit, the heart, or the attitude because they hate Star Trek, and they just want to tear it apart and make fun of it and troll fans and make them feel stupid. That's the whole point of the whole show, which is sad because it could have actually just been a good Star Trek show with funny things that happened. It could have worked. God, what's the name of the guy who did Orville? I'm drawing a total blank. I can see his boofy face. Either way, he could have done it. So we get to the end, and basically Mara actually is acting like a decent human being for a change. She gives Rutherford some good advice. He doesn't take it, but she still gives him good advice. Tendi wants to go check out the warp core. She apologises to her for marginalising her, and she basically acknowledged, most of the Orions are like that, but this one isn't. Then she's like, let's just go sit and watch the warp core. And she's like, that's lame, but yes, let's do that. So they go do that, they have fun. She's not being a bitch. She's not making fun of them. She's not just being Mariner like she's been in all the other 8 episodes. And the captain sees it, and she's like, what? And then she's like, apologises to the captain and says later skater as she walks off after giving her a fist bump. And then the mother, of course, is paranoid. She's in therapy like, what does this mean? It must be some sort of game. What is this? And the only funny moment of the episode for me came when, and there's actually at least one funny moment, but out of a comedy you expect more than that. The therapist, let's call him a therapist, is referencing fruit for some reason, and she says, stop referencing fruit, and kicks the table over, and just, I don't know, just the way she kicked it, just something about it was funny and seemed kind of real, and just, I don't know, it just worked. I sort of laughed. But then we get to the very, very end. Rutherford goes back in, not Rutherford, he's my favourite character, I've got him in my brain. Worlemer goes back into the holodeck to finish off the simulation and continue sucking up, or working out how to suck up. And he sees the end of the film, where for some reason, and this is stupid, it's so stupid, it's so unbelievably ridiculous. Supposedly, Mariner wrote into this movie that her mother eulogises her and says how proud she was to be her mother, which would then be revealing that to anyone who plays the program when it's supposed to be a secret. So that's just stupid. It's just so stupid. He could have found it out through any other ways, like perhaps reading everyone's private. It mentions in the episode that he is reading everyone's private logs. That's how he knows all these references and knows everything, is that he somehow has been referencing like everyone in the Federation's logs and private logs, apparently, obsessively researching to try and be a better ensign and try and get into being in command, I guess. So he realises this. He goes to his interview. This is all about some sort of review or interview with the the captain. I want to say admiral. The husband's the admiral. And then he freaks out and runs off, and then she basically says, he didn't even prepare, obviously, which of course is the joke because he has been preparing the whole time, and that's all he ever does. And then the next episode is him basically calling out Mara and saying, I know she's your mother, I know the captain's your mother. And then they create some little drone. And yeah, I don't know what the final episode's going to be about. And I got kind of excited because it's the 9th episode, right? One more episode, then it's all over. And then I realised, then we have season 3, episode 1 of Discovery. There's no break. There's, 23 weeks straight of Star Trek. New track. I want to call it New Track with an A, because all these people who don't know what Star Trek is call it Star Trek. And yeah, I'm a bit bitter because this show ruined my day today. I had things to do, and I'm like, I can't start anything because I know I just have to stop and watch this episode when it comes through. And I just lay down and like half slept for about 3 hours in some sort of fetal position, just waiting for it to happen to me. And afterwards, you do feel abused as a Star Trek fan. After being trolled for 25 minutes, you do feel abused. But like I said, like I say in my titles, I watch it so you don't have to. So there you go. You don't have to watch this episode because I've gone through that. I've suffered that for you. Yeah, so they totally insulted, totally trolled the Star Trek movies, especially the Enterprise scene from Star Trek The Motion Picture. But they did actually have some more, it feels like fixing of Mariner at this point. It's like they realise she's a horrible character. The legit fans hate her. She's not likable at all. And they're actually trying to make her into a decent character almost, which is almost appreciated, except it's the second to last episode it started, and the third to last episode it started, second to last episode it's sort of happening, and now we just get one episode maybe where she's not a total douche. I'm going to go. Feel free to share, like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think. I don't hate this show, but when I kind of do. I mean, when people hate you and they just want to troll you and make you feel stupid for liking something, it's just hard to deal with it. It's just really frustrating. And then you're told that this is your Star Trek and you're supposed to appreciate it, and if you don't, you're a bad Star Trek fan. Bye.